ready to go. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, May 16th meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. It is lovely to see so many people here this evening. So the first thing we do when we call the meeting to order is have public comment. And so if anyone would like to make public comment, just come to the podium and tell us your name and say your thing.
Hello. My name is Cynthia Etheridge. I live here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I want to talk about the Greenway, Walnut Creek Greenway, the one that I normally get on from the YMCA over on Rock Quarry Road and take it to the right, going past Dacian Road, Rose Lane, all the way that way. When you get to the Dacian Road part all the way up to Rose Lane where it connects to Little John Road, that is the worst trail on the Greenway. I love my Greenways. I think I have ridden every single lane. I know how to tell you how to get to point A, point B, to Johnson County, to Durham County. I know the Greenways. I ride them a lot. And it really, really hurts my heart when I hear people say, or when I read comments about the Greenway, that is the worst Greenway on the Greenways. My heart is for Southeast Raleigh, and I wish you all would do something about it. It's dangerous. There are no railings because you have to make curves and turns. If you don't know that Greenway area like I do, you're subject to fall over into the gravel in this very big boulders where the gravel is. There are no railings. It's sand. It doesn't get kept up like the other Greenways. And I was so excited when I saw you all doing your work with the Green. I was like, finally, they're going to do something about the Greenway over on Rose Lane. Well, they didn't. It's like they forgot about it. It just stopped right there. So if you all could really, I had videos, if you want me to send more videos in, because my next step was to take it to the news, Troubleshooter, or What Drives Me Crazy. I've been on there before. Y'all might know my face on there. But that really does drive me crazy because I love the Greenways, and I don't want people to say that that's the worst Greenway on the Greenway. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. That section actually got some attention and discussion in the Greenway Committee meeting. And to point out to the rest of the board, a good chunk of Walnut Creek has been repaved, and because of the sewer line that went in. But there is just a small little curve at Dacian Road where you identified that goes, and it is a very dangerous connection onto Rose Lane with lots of riffraff, and it zigs and zags. Like you said, if you fell, you would bust your head. And so I think I know that there's a bigger plan for the Walnut Creek Greenway, but perhaps staff can look in on an interim basis and address some of those issues. So we'll keep you apprised of that. Thank you. And if you'll give Giovanna your contact information.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else have public comment? All right, then we will move to the Raleigh Youth Council, and we will have, we have another person who makes public comment? Oh, yeah, feel free. I'm sorry, I didn't see you back at the back.
Good evening, my name is Michelle Paul, and I want to first thank April Love for inviting me here tonight to talk about Let's Get Social Raleigh. I originally created Let's Get Social Raleigh as a Facebook group a month after moving to Raleigh. The goal was to connect with people who loved hiking and brunch as much as I do. This move caused me to battle feelings of isolation, which turned into depression. Now I'm a retired, disabled, combat Marine Corps veteran. and I knew the importance of community while trying to get out of this funk. As people joined the group, they learned of my why, and it resonated with them. So much so that LGSR quickly grew into a safe space for adults to prioritize their mental and physical well-being, welcome newcomers to the area, and support local small businesses. Since 2022, we've brought over 16,000 people together, and we've been silently creating a healthier, safer, more trusting, and connected Raleigh. We have 4 main events that we host each month. I'm here today to talk to you about 2 of them. The first is our Hike and Chill. It's a monthly event, and the other is Adult Recess. Now, since January 2023, we've hosted 15 Hike and Chill events. These early morning, kid-free outings allow adults to rediscover nature, explore all of Raleigh parks and greenways, meet their neighbors, and learn tools to combat anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Each hike ends in a brunch. It's either a picnic or it's at a local brunch spot. Now, our biggest event is Adult Recess. While we have monthly recesses in warmer months, our annual Adult Recess Festival is the highlight of the year. That's where I met April. Last month, we held our 2nd annual festival at Fletcher Park in partnership with Raleigh Parks and Rec, and it was sponsored by the National Black MBA RDU chapter. The festival attracted over 2,000 attendees, including visitors from around the country, and it generated over $14,000 for our local economy in just 4 hours. Our festival is building bridges and bridging gaps through the joy of play. At the festival, all you see are adults from every nationality, socioeconomic background, diverse ability levels, and sexual orientation playing together like we did when we were in elementary school. I came here today to talk to you specifically about the festival, but I want to end it with a quote that basically summarizes the festival that we just had a couple of days ago and who we are as LGSR. It comes from a quote from an attendee, and she perfectly sums it up by saying that she loves LGSR. What she saw were people from all walks of life coming together, playing together, and being one community. Raleigh did that for me, and I just wanted to thank you all.
Wow. Thank you so much. We really appreciated hearing about that. Is that something that is connected to Raleigh's social media for parks as an event, or?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, you left too soon. We do have questions. I said she left too soon. We do have questions.
Yeah. So is that something that was publicized on your social media alone, or was it connected with our Raleigh Park social media
Both.
as well? Both. Okay.
Shout out to Kimberly Oliver. I think you all know her. She was the one that originally contacted us. She's been partnering with us throughout the year. We already have our date for next year, May 3rd, 2025. It's going to be an all-day event back at Fletcher Park, and it's just, I just so appreciate Raleigh for what you all have done.
Right.
So if we wanted to connect with you, what
Yes.
do we just go to Let's Get Social Raleigh? Is there a website or?
Yes, sir. We have, we're found on Instagram. Our whole reach is 37,500 people. We're across Eventbrite, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, letsgetsocialraleigh.com. We work a lot with Kim. Kim did have it on raleigh.gov on your website. Triangle on the Cheap, like it was highly publicized.
We very much appreciate your thanking us, and we thank our staff that worked with you. But I think we would all want to say thank you to you for your effort and energy and creating opportunities. And I think that's what parks and recreation are all about. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for your time again.
Wow. Okay. So now we will call forth London and Paris Evans for the Raleigh Youth Council. And they might be bringing some additional folks with them who might be new leadership in the Raleigh Youth Council, it looks like.
So, hello, my name is London Evans. I'm the former chair of the Raleigh Youth Council. So, our last community service event was with Miracle League, and where we played baseball with participants with special needs and disabilities. In total for the school year, we have completed 530 service hours amongst 175 volunteers. We've had 15 meetings and attended 3 of the state youth council conferences.
Hi, my name is Paris. I'm the former vice chair of the Raleigh Youth Council. So our past meeting, we had our final meeting and induction ceremony this past Monday. The 2023-2024 exec board members passed the torch to the new executive board, and we recognized some other members for their service this year. And so I would like to say it's been a pleasure working with RYC and being able to volunteer with them over my past few years in high school and having the opportunity to be vice chair. So me and Lennon will be going off to college this August. So I would like to say I will be attending NC State and will be majoring in animal science.
Cool. Very. And what will you be doing, London?
I will be attending Winston-Salem State University and studying nursing.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and also as the board members know, but the rest of the audience may not, London was honored with the Fred Fletcher Award on Tuesday evening. So congratulations. Thank you to both of you for all the time and effort you have put into the programs and to creating opportunities for other young people. We appreciate it.
Thank you. So we also have today, so here is the 2024-2025 Raleigh Youth Council Chair and Vice Chair.
Hi, my name is Finn Chaldone, and I'm a rising junior at Enloe High School. And I will be the 2024-2025 Chair of Raleigh Youth Council. Paris and London have done a great job this year, and we're very excited to follow in their footsteps. I'm most excited to develop new relationships with new organizations in Raleigh and increase our development with organizations we work with now. And I'd like to introduce the Vice Chair.
Hey, my name is Miles Frazier, and I will be the 2024-2025 Vice Chair. I am also a rising junior at Enloe High School, and I am most excited to help develop relationships with volunteering in the special needs communities and communities with lower income than most. The executive board will meet to plan for the upcoming year, so we will be back to let you know more updates in September.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for the new chair and vice chair. We look forward to hearing from you on a monthly basis, and it's much notice. And feel free to share information with Giovanna, because then she can get it out to board members, and we do try to participate at the times that we can. So to support you all and to support our community. So thanks so much. All right. Wow. I wouldn't want to have to follow any of this so far. But Kyle Drive is going to get a new name. And so if Emma Lyles will come forward and share the information related to the proposed renaming of Kyle Drive.
Hello. How are you guys doing tonight? So I'm here tonight to talk about Kyle Drive Park and the proposed renaming of the park. So I'm going to do a brief project refresher, then talk about the proposed names and our online survey results, and then kind of dive into what that process for rezoning will be. So just as a reminder, Kyle Drive Park, located at 4700 Kyle Drive, off of Lewisburg Road, right after the split from Capitol, in Council District B. It's part of the 2022 Parks Bond, so we have funding for community engagement, master plan development, design, and construction. We have $9 million total. We're in master planning right now. We'll move into schematic design later this year, design and permitting next year, and hoping to break ground spring 2026. So we had 3 proposed names for renaming the park. These were solicited from our community advisory group. Following the adopted policy, we know that the name has to be either geographic or historically based. So unfortunately, the creek that runs through Kyle Drive Park is Beaver Dam Creek. And we already have a Beaver Dam Park in our system, so could not go with that easy name. So the other names that our CAG proposed, River Cane Wetland Park. River cane is our native bamboo found predominantly on the site. Kyle Drive Wetland Park, and then Valley Stream Wetland Park. I included a little snip here. You can see Valley Stream is just the name of another nearby road. Sorry if it got washed out on the screen a little bit. We had our online survey up recently. This was in conjunction with our survey with the final master plan, concept plan as well. We got about 68 participants, and the winner was Kyle Drive Wetland Park. So that is the name I'm putting forward to you guys tonight as our proposed new name. And so the renaming process is a 3-step process. We are here at that first step at the May board meeting, kind of doing that process overview, looking at the public input results. You guys will vote on this single name suggestion. Then in June, it'll be a public comment period. People are welcome to come and talk and comment on this proposed name. And then in July, we'll come back and you guys can take action on the final name recommendation and on the master plan. We've kind of synced up the process here. So the July will be the big one. But tonight, I need you guys to just vote on Kyle Drive Wetland Park.
And I have a question, and I'm sure some other board members might as well, but do we know any of the history of the name Kyle and where Kyle Drive came from?
I don't, but I can find that out for you. Well, I'll do my best to find it out for you.
Other questions?
Yeah.
During the public comment, are you still going to display the other names, or is it just going to be Kyle Drive Wetland Park? And what do you think of it?
So public comment is closed, and so until this is adopted, we'll still be going forward with the current interim name, which is just Kyle Drive Park. It won't be officially Kyle Drive Wetland Park until the master plan and the name are adopted in July. And then moving forward in schematic design, we'll call it Kyle Drive Wetland Park.
So after we vote on this, what happens in June? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll go back to that. So it's a 3-month, 3-step process. So tonight we pick the one name, and then June is open for public comment, and then July you vote on the final name, and also the master plan.
And we have had situations where we were a 4-month process because we put out a name and then we got pushback. Or pushback might sound a little aggressive, but people questioned the smoothness of the name. Mm-hmm. And so we went back to the drawing table and came up with another name. So it does become, after our vote tonight, technically it becomes subject to public comment. Mm-hmm. I think you're asking, is there an opportunity for more public comment for these names?
Oh, so what happens if in June public comment comes in and people say they want a different name? Yeah. That's a great question.
So it's up to us. Okay.
So you can move forward to say we want to continue with the discussions about Kyle, or you can say, Emma, we'd like you to do a little bit more research or discussion about this alternative, because that's what we did with Smokey.
Yeah. Any other questions or suggestions? I mean, if somebody has, personally, if I were choosing it, I would choose River Cane, because it is a native species of bamboo that it isn't super invasive. It's in Beaver Dam Park. In Windmere, it is on the Neuse River. So it's an opportunity to educate people about a native species that they might not otherwise know about. And it gives us something to kind of highlight. I could see, signage that looked like, that graphically depicted it. But it's not Beverly's choice. So I want to hear other board members speak up.
I'll also point out this recommendation is based purely on the survey results of our last survey, which had 68 participants, and it's a 41% for Kyle Drive, and then 34% for Valley Stream, and 24% for River Cane. I'm not trying to throw a twist in this process, but
Emma?
Yes.
Were those the only 3 names suggested?
Those are the only 3 that we put in the survey. We did have a little other category, and I think it says here 2% voted for other. I don't have on me exactly what those type-ins were, but I can find out.
Were the other names that were suggested known in the survey? Were they posted in the survey, or was it just other?
I think it's just other. I think that's how the question was set up.
Thank you.
Any other comments, suggestions? A motion to recommend a name? I mean, my concern is a little bit not knowing what Kyle, who Kyle was, and Kyle.
If you want me to come back next month,
I was going to say an option is to direct staff to do more historical research and come back next month.
it does mess up. That is
If
fine.
anybody wants to make a motion to adopt one of these names, I will entertain said
It'd be
motion.
subject to nothing that staff finds out, and we could report back
Yes.
to the board within,
That's a
we'll
good idea.
say, 10 to 14 days, if that's more comfortable.
I will make a motion to vote on.
Okay.
Kyle Drive Wetland Park. I don't know Kyle's last name, but I will find out.
I second the motion. I second.
What? So what was the I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Did you?
Motion to vote on Kyle Drive Wetland Park.
Okay.
Is it subject to
Yeah.
staff doing the research and following back up with the board through the board secretary? Is that, okay.
You'll second that? All right. Any further discussion of the name? Oh, yes.
How will we find out who Kyle is before we hear from Emma again?
Well, I guess we could say this is a prospective vote, subject to if she finds out anything, then we'll revisit the name at our June meeting. And if she doesn't find, if there's, it's still a question of whether there's anything to be found out about. But
That's a great point.
There will be
honestly.
no posting until we inform the board that we've confirmed that there's nothing historical that we should be concerned about. That's what my suggestion.
All right. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Duly noted. But thank you very much, and you can move forward on that. And the next item on our agenda is the park system plan update.
All right. Good evening. I'm Xiaoxin Baker with Raleigh Parks this evening to give you a progress report on this Raleigh Park System Plan update. First off, quick recap of the project scope, especially for the new board members. The current system plan rather was adopted in 2014, which looks like this. And the scope of this system plan update project includes updating the equity criteria and the level of service standards based on research of industry trends and best practices nationwide. Reporting out, that's the third bullet here, reporting out the progress since the 2014 system plan adoption and developing implementation strategies for the next 10 years. Also conducting a fee study and updating the user fee policy. So that is the scope for this system plan update. Okay, since the plan was initiated last summer, we have presented several updates to the board. If you remember, we came here to the board in July and presented overview, and then in October, the engagement summary, and then March for the proposed or previewed framework, and now we're in May. And in between these Parks Board updates, we conducted input sessions engaging both the community as well as the department leadership and operations staff. So as presented at the March Parks Board, we confirmed the vision, which is bring people to parks and the parks to people, which is still valid, we believe, today. We refined the guiding principles. Now there are 8 guiding principles, which will have a further clarified definition in the drafted report. And for the implementation framework, we are, as previewed again in March, I need it. Thank you. And we're looking at the implementation strategies through health-focused lenses, first at the individual and family level, and then at the community and the social level, and then finally at the environmental, a larger scale, and with the implementation strategies, the organizational strategies cross-cutting all 3 levels and all 3 lenses. And that is the proposed framework that was presented at the March meeting. Thank you, Emma.
So I have a
Yeah,
question.
you wanna go
Can
back?
Go back 2 slides.
This one?
Yeah. So on the slide that follows this, you talk about dimensions of public health. I think that's an awesome thing, but it's not listed as one of your guiding principles, so it seems a little disconnected.
The guiding principles, they are again, there were 7 right now in this report, and they are the guiding principles to guide how we operate. And the lenses, and those are the framework that we're trying to use to look at outcomes and develop the action plans. And each of the action plans or each of the action items will have association with one or more than one of the guiding principles. And once we develop the draft report, you will have a chance, we'll have the schedule later to show you. You have a chance to review the entire report, and hopefully the association will be more clear at that point.
Okay.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, the health lenses, we have developed 4 health lenses instead of the current compartmentalized subsystems. And based on engagement processes to date, we have drafted the outcomes that we would like to achieve. And based on these outcomes, we are compiling the action items, including programs, projects, and policies. First, for individual well-being, the draft outcomes include physical well-being, mental well-being, and inclusiveness and relevancy to remove barriers and provide something for everybody. And the next slide, don't worry about reading the fine print. It's not meant for you to read, just showing you the examples. To achieve those outcomes, we are currently working on the programs, projects, and policies. And you will see the same theme throughout the 4 lenses. For the social cohesion, the draft outcomes include belonging, relationships, community development, and community connections. Again, we're currently working on the programs, projects, and policies to achieve those draft outcomes. The outcomes we're still trying to refine. Similarly, environmental resilience, the draft outcomes include ecology, sites and facilities improvement, and stewardship. Again, programs, policies, and projects. The same with the organizational strategy, and the outcomes we're seeking are to empower, innovate, support, and cultivate staff to deliver the quality services that we intend to. Again, programs, policies, and projects. Now, those are the bones, and here's how you're going to find out about the meat to fill in those bones. For May, we are engaging the public and the city department staff. We just closed the public input session last week, and the staff input session will be closed next week. In June, leadership staff and the project team will be working on the overall draft plan, including finalizing the draft action items, including the projects, policies, and programs. And for July, and that's where you folks can come in to review, and we'll have some options, and we could either put it on some online platform for you to provide the comments online, or we can have in person, multiple hours charrette to review together, work on it together as a separate meeting, separate from the board meeting, or we can do a combination. We can have individual review first and have a shorter discussion either at the board meeting or separate from the board meeting, or we can engage the Parks Committee. So there are a lot of options. The good thing is that you still have a couple weeks to think through that, and if you have any ideas, talk to Stephen and Giovanna. We will try to accommodate whatever you desire, make it easier for you, but we do want to incorporate your comments on the draft report. And we will, after incorporating everybody's comments, we'll come back in September to present the final draft, followed by October City Council review and adoption.
Great. Can we ask that Giovanna send out an email to us to get input on that? All right. Questions from board members? It did become more clear.
Thank you.
So thank you. I mean, it is an important document. It really is the guiding, the pole star for the park system for the next, maybe not 10 years, maybe 7 or 5. Okay, 10 is.
We did 10 last time. That was too long.
Yeah, the world changes too quickly for that. Yes.
I just want to say I'm so impressed to see environmental things so integrated. Thank you all.
And I do want to thank you all for your previous engagement. I know you all had a chance to participate in those input sessions. Really, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So thank you for that presentation. All right. We get a park presentation, Green Road Park Schematic Design. And I'm not sure who is presenting. I don't have that on my... Oh, great.
Good evening, members of Park Board. I'm Diga, Capital Project Manager for Raleigh Parks. So this evening we'll be presenting the schematic design for the site improvement project at Green Road Park. And this park, is part of 2022 Raleigh Parks Bond. We're seeking board approval at the end of the meeting. So Greenways Park is an established 29-acre, I'll put this map first, 29-acre park situated in the northeast Raleigh. In the 2022 park bond allocated 4.5 million for the enhancement of the site accessibility and the improvement of the park amenities that including new comfort station, picnic shelter, and the central activity plaza, and additional 250,000 for public art also for this park. I want to share the schedule of the project. The city contract with the CLH Design in the summer 2023 to develop concept plan options and the schematic design for Greenways Park. And concept plans and design options were reviewed by an internal design review team that composed of PRCR resources, Parks and Recreation Division staff, and staff from other city departments. Raleigh Parks also organized 3 public engagement events during the schematic design process. For this, events were held at the Green Road Community Center in October 2023, February 2024, and April 2024. The latest public meeting, the design team presented the final schematic design. So throughout the engagement process, we have the in-person feedback and also online survey feedback. Generally, we didn't get any opposition to the proposed improvements of the engaged process. Our feedback generally positive. So starting from this spring, we'll continue to engage with our consultant for final design and permitting. Followed by bidding summer 2025, we have allowed up to 12 months for construction, with new improvements available for public use by late 2026. I'm now turn the presentation to Rachel Wilson, project manager from CLH, to present the site details and the schematic design. We're happy to take your questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Watson with CLH Design. We are the site design consultant for the project. I just want to orient everyone to the project site. So the library building community center is off of Green Road. There's 2 main entrances there, and then there's a main parking in the center between the 2. For amenities on the site, there are 2 baseball fields, volleyball courts, a playground, restroom building, basketball courts. There are also additional volleyball courts near a tennis court off of Hoyle Drive. And there's also a picnic shelter as well. There's also an existing tree conservation area adjacent to the community center, and that's the extensive wooded area to the right, page right of the community center. There's also an existing stream in this area as well. Okay. Looking at existing conditions, I do want to draw your attention to the restroom building image. As you can see, that entrance of the restroom building is facing away from the community center and also the main entrance of the park. It is also covered with large trees and shrubs, so it blocks visibility to that main entrance of the restroom building, which reduces safety and access and security to that restroom building. Looking at the playground and volleyball courts, as you can see, there's a lot of shaded trees in this area, which we're looking to maintain as we move through the design process. We're looking at the two baseball fields. We did get a lot of public comment about keeping the baseball fields, but also providing improvements for seating, drainage, and also access to these 2 fields as well. And then the existing volleyball courts and tennis courts off of Brockton Drive. So this is a concept plan we presented at our February public open house. I'll review this rather quickly, so I want to refer to the legend. So looking at the legend, we were proposing our concept plan in February. Additional parking, more unprogrammed green space, extensive pathways with a central plaza space, an improved playground, futsal courts, relocating the existing volleyball courts near the tennis courts, more bleachers for seating for both of the baseball fields, additional picnic areas, shade structures, and adult fitness. And also, we're proposing relocating that restroom building closer to the main entrance so it has better accessibility and views as well. And then also, we cite additional areas for potential art within the project. Okay. So we basically listed our main takeaways from our public open house. So I'm just going to kind of summarize everything. So we've been talking about a better restroom building, more seating near the baseball fields, a multifunctional gathering space, more seating park-wide. There's a lot of comments, like I said, about the baseball fields, maintaining them, keeping them, and then having more seating, better drainage. They want a larger, improved playground, and an ability to enjoy nature in the outdoors. And this is a little tidbit, many of the users arrive to Greenwood Park by vehicle. Okay? So, going through the public comments and working with City Raleigh staff, we are presenting a schematic design that factors in public comment and site analysis. So I just want to walk you through the site plan, and then we'll look at some of the amenities more closely. There are 2 pedestrian crosswalks across the parking lot. They will have raised crosswalks for pedestrian safety and to slow vehicles down as they move through this parking lot. The pedestrian crossing closer to the main entrance creates a better pedestrian connection between the community center and the existing library building. The second pedestrian crossing leads to a main plaza space with a shade structure and also a relocated new restroom building. There's also a new playground and adult fitness area within that same area. We're also proposing 6 new pickleball courts at Green Road Park, and then moving towards the area where the former restroom building was, which is in between the 2 baseball fields and in the basketball court. We're proposing a secondary plaza space, and that is for when people can gather when there's games occurring at the 2 baseball fields. There's also a pathway, a new accessible pathway leading from this secondary plaza space past the basketball courts down to the small baseball field dugout area. We are also proposing keeping many of the existing trees in this area. During site visits, we noticed that many people gathered in these spaces for shade and picnic tables, and also more seating as well. The central walkway in between the two baseball fields, we're proposing widening that pathway, and that pathway will lead to the new volleyball courts, which is near the tennis courts, and also a paved pedestrian pathway off of Hole Drive as well. And also there's a futsal court off of Brockton Drive. There's an overall loop path around the large baseball field that connects all the amenities, so it's another asphalt paved trail. So people have better access to the existing vegetation and nature within the park. That loop path connects to a secondary pathway leads to a larger baseball field with additional bleachers as well. And that loop path also connects to the new amenities such as the playground, pickleball courts, and main plaza space. So summarizing the schematic design, there's enhancement of site accessibility and pedestrian safety improvements through raised crosswalks in the parking area and new accessible pathways connecting park features. So we're connecting both existing and proposed park features at Green Road Park. We are also providing a better experience for park visitors and provides amenities for different types of users. So different gathering spaces, and upgraded playgrounds, a new restroom building and shade structure. We're also proposing new types of amenities at Greenwell Park, such as futsal, pickleball, and adult fitness. And we're providing unprogrammed open space for passive recreation and gathering. So looking at the playground space, it's a new playground. It has improved surfacing and potentially new equipment as well. We are working with a playground vendor to design the space and look at different playground equipment. As you can see, the playground is close to the main central plaza, shade structures, and the restroom building. And then also we're showing what equipment could look like in this space. We're still working with a vendor, but we wanted to show you what that equipment could look like. The main central plaza is close to the playground. It has a shade structure in the middle and also a restroom building as well, and it's close to parking. And then we're showing you images of what that space could look like, different hardscape material, seating, and different plant material as well. We're locating a shade structure in the central plaza for better visibility and access. And then we're showing you image of what that shade structure could look like. So as mentioned before, we are relocating the new restroom building. That main entrance of the restroom building will be facing the plaza space and the parking area, as well as the community center. So it has better visibility for safety and access. And then we're showing an image of what that restroom building could look like. We have looked at preliminary drainage and green stormwater infrastructure, such as curb cuts with vegetative areas and rain gardens, and also vegetative swales. This will treat and store runoff, and also provides an educational feature to the park. I'm going to turn it over for Kelly to talk about the public art.
Thank you. So as a part of this project, as I said, the Public Art and Design Board allocated $250,000 out of the Percent for Art budget for the project. This is an area that we have not had many projects in before, so we're excited to get to know the community. And out of 130 applications received, our artist selection panel selected the Urban Conga, which is a two-person artist group made of an architect and an artist. They really specialize in more interactive participatory art with a lot of play in mind, and their engagement is evolved around play as well. And this is an example of just some of the works that they've done in the past. There is a lot of lighting included in it, music, things that people can play with and take part in. And just for engagement, they have been a part of the group in the engagement previously and will continue to come down and engage with the community. They'll be here the weekend of June 15th, working with the Green Road Library on their summer reading list launch, where they get hundreds of people out there. So from 2 to 4 p.m., if you'd like to meet them, please come on June 15th. Thank you.
Very cool. Yes, I know I have some. What a surprise! But other board members, if anybody have questions about this?
I just want to say, I want to ask about the forest. The wood, is it going to be left intact?
Yes,
How
it
big is that?
Well, I don't know if I can you see my cursor? A little bit. So all of this area is recorded tree conservation area. So
Yeah.
this will remain for construction, during construction. We are not kind of going past kind of this area. There is a stream with a buffer associated with it, and it has a topography change as well.
And what are some of the primary trees that are growing there?
We are currently getting a tree survey. So once we do, we will be able to identify any specimen trees or that will remain.
Okay. Are there going to be paths through this?
No,
forest?
there are not. It will be difficult to have pathways with tree conservation area because those trees are recorded, they're protected. So we would have to just provide a new tree conservation area within this project if we do disturb any trees in that area. So we would try to maintain as many existing trees as possible on site.
Well, that's a good idea.
I think I want to add to your comments for the trees. I know public really care about that's mature trees. So two level of trees. One is recorded, the tree conservation area won't touch it. But another level is the trees, remaining trees on the site will have a full survey that Rachel mentioned. We'll work with urban forest staff to work through, the tree, how to preserve and, the best way to balance between the design and the tree preservation.
That's great. Other questions? Kara?
How many people participated in the community engagement opportunities in the last 3 months?
I only remember the highest number, if I can say that, the second the public online meeting, online survey, we got like over 180 comments on the online. So we didn't show that, but that's the best number we have. But each open house we have, people coming in and coming and go, because we have this open house. So people just drop in anytime if they're convenience. So every time people come in, we just talk to them about plans. So each time we have pretty good amount of people.
Okay. And I'm curious about the parking. Is there a lack of parking right now for people using the park, and what are we taking away to add these 31 more parking spaces?
Sorry, I pushed the mic. So the concept plan was an earlier concept plan where we were exploring what additional parking would look like. Right now, people do park along Hoyle and Brockton Drive to access the park. Right now, the only thing we're modifying in the parking lot is adding the raised crosswalks and then adding some additional tree islands as well. So we are modifying some areas of the parking lot.
The concept plan proposed parking after further review. We're not adding any more.
Oh, okay. And what is a raised crosswalk? Like, how raised is that exactly?
It's more like kind of a elevated crosswalk, so more like a ramp style.
Okay.
So it acts as a speed bump as well. So that's why I said that because people do speed through this parking area. And that was mentioned to us by staff and the community. So we looked at ways to have safe pedestrian access and to slow people down as they go through this parking area. So the raised crosswalk does that.
Okay. And are we going to add any like bike racks or anything that would encourage, different forms of transportation?
Yes. As we move through the schematic design, we will add additional site furniture, additional bike racks, water fountains, trash cans, et cetera, and more seating as well.
And recycling or compost by any chance?
Yeah, we'll have to work with city staff on that as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Ian, did you have a question?
Yeah, two actually. So on the art project, that looks really cool. I was wondering if it's a single installation or are they going to install stuff around the park?
We're not sure yet. They, in their engagement right now, they're asking a lot of people about what the park means to them, and they also have little icons that they've been asking people to respond to. Right now, top of the list is artwork with lighting, artwork that is active play, some rest as well, and then also music. So I think they're going to continue to kind of respond to that, do some design build workshops with the community, and then we'll figure out if it's going to be one piece or multiple or a placemaking area.
Cool, thank you. And this is probably a very general question for all the projects, but like I see a lot of cool features. And what happens if the budget doesn't cover all of those? Is there a priority list for ones that would get first and those that are there if money's left over?
Yeah, so throughout this entire process, we've been working on the budget and looking at everything, and working with Dee on all the cost information as well. So as we move through the project, we'll set priorities and we'll go from there. But we know we have a set budget.
Will those priorities, though, be obvious to us when we're going through the design review? Like, these are tier 1, these are tier 2?
That'll be at the master plan stage, I think.
Go ahead.
Or no, at the design development.
As Dee and Rachel mentioned, that we did perform cost estimates for this plan, and we do have, right now, we fully intend on having everything implemented, and we do have escalation contingency built in the cost estimate to make sure that we can implement everything that we're presenting to you.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions? If you could go back to an earlier slide where the timeline of the project, that's way back at the beginning. Here we are. I know that Mr. Bentley's heard this from council, and it's been expressed at this table, an urge to spend more quickly the parks bond that was passed in 2022. And I'm trying to understand, given that it's presented to us tonight, May 2024, and we're not going to bid it until for over a year, and what opportunities are there for accelerating that time frame, because it seems like a long time.
Yeah, it takes a while to go through the design process, and then we have to go through permitting as well. So it takes a while from start of a project to actually bidding it.
And that is something, it is a big picture item that the city needs to work on, because sometimes we're our own worst enemies with regard to the permitting process. And I know we have to do it just like everybody else, but I want to make sure that the public engagement, I mean, people saw this a year ago, and now they've been open houses twice. And so I just, as a general rule, I think that the sooner we, whatever we can do to expedite the implementation of the project and go to construction, it's the community will be happier.
Thank you.
I had a question.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to add another piece of information. This schedule was developed based on our past experience, and because of the scale of the site, and not only we need to go through city for permitting, we need to go through a state of North Carolina for the DEQ permitting as well. So we need to make sure that, both processes are, met and conducted for the permitting. And this is just our estimate. And you are absolutely right, Beverly, that we should be looking at what other efficiencies and economies that we can have in time and delivery, and we'll continue to do that. But this is...
And the DEQ review is due to the stream that we're not proximate
No, it's
to.
the size of any disturbance over 1 acre needs to go to DEQ.
Okay, that's news.
In addition to the city.
Okay, all right.
I had a couple questions, actually. Is there existing lighting for the tennis courts and baseball fields that are there?
Yes, there is.
Okay, and with the new project, is there any thought to replacing those with amber lighting?
We'll have to look at that a little more closely. Do you want to answer that?
Can you explain amber lighting?
The amber lighting that we've talked about, that's potentially
The
more,
sport
I think,
field
more,
lighting actually has a specific standard that you have to meet for
Okay.
safety and play.
Okay, so we wouldn't be
specific
able to
foot
put in like the amber lights that we've talked about that are more friendly for, is it migratory
and-
birds? and-
Not on the sport field, but what we
No,
can do.
on
oh,
tennis court.
Well, either.
Yeah, they have a specific foot candle for safety and play regulations, but what we can do is in the plaza areas, if we have, what would you call it, space light, pedestal lighting, we can look at the ones that you all have discussed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. I was just going to follow up on that. And the sports lighting, that goes off at a certain time of night? Okay.
And then is this going to be, this is along the route of a future greenway, is that correct?
I don't think so.
A potential one? Oh, I thought on one of the maps that you showed there was a dotted line for
I'll look in iMaps.
Okay. But then I'm guessing that's not part of the 22 bond. Okay.
No, and it's a pretty urban, built-up area. I don't think that. So a couple of other questions. There's some green space around the library. Does the county own that property?
Yeah, that's a Wake County Library building.
Yeah. So we couldn't have any of our. They have title. The other question that I have related to it, as I'm looking at the distance, if you are playing tennis, playing volleyball, or playing on the baseball field, or on the smaller baseball field, do you have we estimated how many minutes it would take to get to the bathroom?
We can look at that.
Okay, because it's kind of far. But,
Yes, we did went through this discussion about where is the best location. So first thing we're looking at is the safety, because the site do have some safe issues. So we understand we're trying to put we have a new pickleball course going to be installed and designed, and that location, the two baseball field, we did some from the online public engagement. People feel it's okay. It's not the
because
best.
you moved
yes.
the dugout
Right,
area.
right.
Gotcha. I see that. Thank you.
And we own the entire property, but have a long-term agreement with the Wake County Library, because I just clicked on the parcel.
So that parcel is encumbered by the county?
The entire 29 acres, according to iMaps. And actually, I didn't know that, but it looks like we own the entire 29 acres, so we must have a long-term MOU with them. It's not subdivided. That's my point. Yeah.
And are the pickleball courts so far from the tennis courts just because of the natural tension between tennis players and pickleball players?
We looked at different options of where the pickleball courts could go. One option was converting one tennis court to pickleball, and maybe putting pickleball closer to tennis. But I think we overall decided that kind of separating them a little bit would be the best option. Since there's 6 pickleball courts as well.
So the reason I ask is just one of the complaints that non-pickleball players have is the noise, and I wasn't sure if that being so close to the library made sense, but maybe it's further than it looks.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? So we need to vote on this, to vote approval on this. So I'll take a motion to approve the schematic design for Green Road Park.
I move that we approve the schematic design.
All right, all in favor? Any discussion? Or, okay, we're done. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right, next we have Kate Pierce coming up to talk about the update for Dix Park. And
well, it's great to see y'all. I'm happy to be here tonight. And also have my colleagues from the Dix Park Conservancy here who will share an update on the public art program that is kicking off at Dix Park. Just a couple of things. One, we know you've requested a tour of the Gibson Play Plaza site, and we are working to schedule that. The picture you see in front of you is the custom towers that have been installed, And it's really exciting to see stuff starting to come out of the ground. If you are interested or any of your friends and family are interested, there is a live construction cam on dixpark.org that's overlooking the entire site, so you can get live updates on where we are. Tonight, I thought I would just give a highlight of all of our current projects and focus on two particularly. One, the Rocky Branch Enhancement Project, and second, the Cultural Interpretation Plan. We'll then roll into a discussion about art in the park. So where we are today is we have a number of ongoing construction projects. This includes the abatement and demolition of some cottages and buildings. It includes a sidewalk accessibility project funded by Wake County. Obviously, the Gibson Play Plaza is underway. And then there are a number of projects that are on the horizon, including a number of renovations by the Dix Park Conservancy to support a concessions operation at the park. In terms of planning and design, we've got a number of different projects also underway. We have recently presented the Rocky Branch Enhancement Project to our leadership committee. I believe also Dean came to the Greenway board and presented an update on the Rocky Branch project. I'll share a high-level discussion of that today. The Cultural Interpretation Plan is something I'm really excited about to share with y'all tonight. This will be presented to the leadership committee in May. And then we've got two projects underway with the Dix Park Conservancy, including the concession strategy and an MSD feasibility study, which will kick off formally in July with
Can you
in
define
partnership with the budget.
MSD, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you define MSD,
Yes,
please?
sorry. As part of looking at all of the different funding strategies to support the park, the city is undertaking a municipal service district feasibility study, which is looking at a potential tax on non-single-family residential uses adjacent to the park. So think about, for those of you that have been driving down Lake Wheeler Road, you see really large developments. Is there a way for those developments to contribute a little bit of money into a pot to support the ongoing operations of the park? We are looking to exclude single-family residential, which is consistent with all of the other MSD districts in the city to date. But I'm happy to answer more questions about that. So the Rocky Branch feasibility study has been recently presented to the Dix Park Leadership Committee and will go to council for an update. But as a result of this study, we have looked at the creek in 3 different sections, reaches. So there's Reach 1, the Western Gateway, Reach 2, the Bend, and Reach 3, the Downtown Connection. For each of these reaches, we modeled various concepts. Concept A was most closely aligned with the Dix Park Master Plan. Concept B was a bit of a lighter intervention. And then concept C was more of a stream restoration. a stream enhancement, not a full stream restoration. I think the really interesting thing to note about all 3 concepts is all 3 concepts meet the project goals of restoring habitat, mitigating flood impacts, improving water quality, showcasing the Piedmont ecology, and creating more bicycle and pedestrian amenities. The interesting thing about the concepts is it's like a kit of parts. You could pick concept A for Reach 3 and concept C for Reach 1. And so what we did in terms of both and through public engagement and with our committees is look at which scenario makes sense for which reach of the creek. And where we've ended up is that in the section of the creek that traverses the landfill, which is the Western Gateway, we are suggesting scenario C, which is the lightest intervention, because the idea of removing a lot of landfill, relocating a lot of landfill, has a lot of cost implications and a lot of engineering implications. And so the least amount of intervention that still has accomplished the project goals, but has the least impact to the existing landfill was considered for the Western Gateway. For the Bend and the Downtown Connection, we are suggesting a stream enhancement that looks at creating a meander, really improving stormwater, and creating a lot of bicycle and pedestrian amenity along that section of the creek. This project is our most ambitious project. It is the most expensive project out of the Dix Park Master Plan, so we know we can't do it all at once. So what we've also suggested is that we're going to start with the downtown connection. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is this is the area of the park that is obviously closest to downtown. We see a lot of people at Lake Wheeler Road and South Saunders. All of the development that's adjacent to Lake Wheeler Road would benefit from this amenity. And it's also building off of the momentum of the Gibson Play Plaza and the Lake Wheeler Road improvements. So we have recommended to our leadership committee, which has been approved, to start with Reach 3, the downtown connection, with concept B. I will note that we've also talked about how we would like to expand this to include the upland, so to include the section of the Grove that is the missing piece between the Gibson Play Plaza and the creek itself. So when we move into the design phase, we are going to look at this at more holistically, design that section of the creek, but also design the upland with the Grove because of all of the stormwater benefits that would come by doing those in parallel. Where we are today is we have submitted 3 grant applications to various organizations to try to build a bucket of money to support the design of Reach 3, but also if we are successful with all of these grant applications, we could advance the design of all of the reaches at once. There is also money identified in the 2022 Parks Bond to advance this project, but we will, most of these are, we will hear back on these this fall. So we're hoping to be able to layer funding sources to advance the entire project while we're also working with our conservancy partners and other funders on construction funding. So I will pause here on the creek before I jump to the next project.
Questions, board members? Doug?
What's a Sentinel landscape?
So the Sentinel landscape, that is actually a separate grant application that is looking to connect properties in and around bases, in and around military bases in the eastern part of the state to the overall Mountains to Sea Trail and to our overall Greenway system. So that is a project that NC State, in partnership with, I'm not going to remember the group, NC State, and there's a NC Sentinel Landscapes group that is partnering on that grant application. It was just all layered as one. We would not get that money. That would go to that project. We would get the 1.6 million for the creek.
Gotcha. Other questions on the Rocky Branch Creek before she goes on to the cultural interpretation? I think one of the key things that I've heard at this presentation is that accessibility, creating accessibility in 2 definitions, a disability accessibility and all with lots of ramps and boardwalks, and then also using stones to create a step down, similar to what we might be doing at the Neuse River, and creating areas that that people can actually get close to the water. And
the goal here, and one of the reasons we started with the downtown connection, is this is the place where people could really interact with the water. And other sections of the creek that might not be as feasible.
So, all right, on to the cultural interpretation.
All right, this project I'm really excited about, and we will send out the public input survey that has the plan up right now for comment, but the Dix Park Cultural Interpretation Plan is a result of recommendations in the master plan that really pushed us to look at the complex layered history of the park and think about how those histories are reflective of our national history, but how they're also very specific to place. So Dix Park as indigenous land, Dix Park as a place of enslaved labor, Dix Park as a mental health hospital. And so as part of the park's commitment to being a site of conscience, we got funding from a variety of sources to develop a cultural interpretation plan that looks at how do we tell the stories of the past to present and future park goers. What do we need to do to communicate these stories in a recreation setting, which is a really interesting thing to think that the majority of people coming to the park will be coming for recreation, but there's also a way to tell these broader stories of the history of place. And then how do we do this and on what time frame? We have done a lot of engagement through this process, and I'll be frank in that a lot of our engagement was with the groups specifically identified that have histories tied to place. So a lot of work with the Native American community, a lot of work with descendants of the plantation, a lot of work with former patients, former employees of the Dix Hospital. And then the other thing that came up was the ecological history of the site and how that ties into the cultural experience of place. So a lot of our engagement takeaways focused on we really need to be mindful of the people with lived experiences, hear the personal stories, think about community building, and then the way that we tell this needs to be creative. So do we think about history, experiencing history through art, through events, through programs? And you'll see there's a lot of recommendations that speak to all of this in the plan itself. The major themes that came out of the engagement and work were the idea that our community history is our common history, and it's always evolving. So yes, we have a point in time where we're looking back, but our stories continue to evolve, we continue to learn, and how do we recognize that in the future of the park? The other is this idea from erasure to presence. So a lot of the groups that have history on the site, there is no physical reminder of that history on the site today. So how do we recognize this as Native American hunting and gathering land? How do we recognize this as a place that had an enslaved workforce? This led to this idea of real care and inclusion for the way we interpret the history to present and future park visitors. It even got, I will say, I've been a consultant for a long time. Now I've read a lot of plans. The plan this consulting group produced as a first draft, which you'll see on the website, is probably the best first draft plan I've ever read in my entire professional career. So I would read it. It's actually a very fascinating read, and we can send out a link specifically to it. And then there's the idea of restorative nature. How do we use the natural history of the site to deal with some of the things like physical well-being, social well-being? And so all of these themes play into both the short-term project recommendations, many of which are already underway, like an oral history project and exhibits, which I'll talk about, and to the longer-term project recommendations that consider things like a descendants pavilion, restorative gardens that are underway, and potentially exhibitions or permanent museums at Dix Park. All of this rolls into an implementation matrix that is in the plan itself, but I did want to note that we already have 2 projects underway because of funding from the Dix Park Conservancy. One is the Gatekeeper's Cottage, which will open May 31st, and hopefully you already have your invite to that. If not, we will resend it. It's also going to be our first interpretive center, and one of the rooms is all dedicated to telling the story of the land and has also opportunities for people to come in and record their stories to share back with the park. And the other piece that's currently underway with a donor is the idea of creating a healing garden in the chapel garden landscape. The chapel garden is already beautiful, but there are some things that we can do to create more of a healing garden with more reflective, quiet spaces. And that project is also underway because of the donations to the Dix Park Conservancy. So I love that we're already implementing the plan's recommendations, and I'm really excited about how this becomes a complement to the recommendations of the Dix Park Master Plan. It is out for public comment, and we are presenting it to the Leadership Committee in a week, and then it will go also to Council for review. So I'll pause here before I turn it over to my colleague Janet for an update on the public art program at Dix.
All right, any questions from board members about the cultural interpretation plan? Kara?
How did you pick which elements to start working on right now?
A lot of them were already underway prior to the planning process. So we've had an oral history program now for 6 or 7 years. We have just learned a lot more through this process on how to continue that. So for example, we need an institutional partner for the oral histories. So tomorrow we're meeting with the State Archives on how to advance that. There's been a lot of, I guess, professionalism and experience that we didn't know that we've learned through this process from our consultant team that have built on a lot of these things that were already underway.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, then we will move on to public art at Dix Park.
Thank you, Kate. I'm Janet Cowell. I'm the head of the Conservancy, and this.
I'm Nick Neptune, Director of Outreach and Community Engagement with the Dix Park Conservancy. Great to see many familiar faces.
Thank you for your interest in this. There's a lot of exciting, just as Kate had a lot of exciting things to share, there's a lot of exciting things to share around art at Dix Park. Just here, the idea that public art being the most inclusive and accessible of all art, right? You can see it any time of day, there's no tickets, and increasingly we are putting in the sorts of accessibility in terms of paths, et cetera, bathrooms that allow people to actually enjoy the park, come to the park and see the art. I chose Philadelphia, my college town here for the example. Just to reiterate, Dix Park Master Plan in 2019 that was approved by council absolutely included art. And this is just a snapshot of that phone book of a plan, but just showing that it did envision that there would be art throughout the park. This is another map just showing you a scattering of where art will, the green stars being where it's already been confirmed, and then possible locations as we are working with artists. We have one artist coming in shortly next week. We will show them these sites, and then the artist, of course, has to respond to what they can envision for their art. Nick, do you want to talk to some of these?
Well, just briefly, you know, we have been engaged in public art projects for a number of years now. I think going back as early as 2018, you know, we've got our colleagues Kate Pierce and Kelly McChesney, the City of Raleigh Public Art Director, who could speak to more of that. But as a few examples here from recent years, you've got the Greenway tunnel, Rocky Branch Greenway tunnel that we repainted with Taylor White. We worked with Katie Stewart on Raleigh's smallest park, downtown, along with a mural behind her by Gabriel N. Gates, who's an artist based out of Durham, North Carolina. We worked with Joseph Giampino on an artwork or a mural to celebrate the kickoff of the groundbreaking of the Gibson Play Plaza, the It Starts Here mural you see up there in the corner. But then, you know, there's also been, again, over the years, some smaller pieces or pop-up pieces. You've got Nate Schaefer had a light installation. I think that was maybe back in 2018, 2019, I think in the Pine Loop Trail, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's some artworks there by Courtney Evans of Tactile Workshop. It's actually a pollinator hotel. Go Bees. We're all about supporting bees and our local ecology at the park. And then I think there's a piece there, the ginkgo tree by Gail Lowry. I believe that's found in the chapel, the Dix Chapel, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, we're deeply grateful for the work of Christopher Holt, an Asheville, North Carolina-based artist who has created this, I think, silver leaf mural that depicts elements of the landscapes past, present, and future.
This, I mean, while the cultural plan had not been created at this time, I think this is a good example of how we were trying to lean into that interpretation even then, and now we'll have this incredible plan to guide some of the art.
Another celebrated temporary public art piece at the park, Wings of the City. I think this was between 2021, yep. I believe. And effectively, what was nice about this piece is that you found these obviously large statues kind of spread throughout the grove of the park that really invited park guests to sort of meander and walk through and just explore the natural spaces of the parkscape.
And then kind of always relevant when it comes to art is who's actually making all these decisions. So we wanted you to know that we actually do have an art task force. I'll show you their pictures. And then we have worked very closely with Kelly and all the folks at the City of Raleigh in sort of tandem to get approval for art. This, as I mentioned, Marjorie Hodges, who many of you know, is our chair. And we have a number of other folks pictured here that are on that task force. I'll start with the 2024. So one of the goals of this task force was really to do 2 to 3 major pieces of art each year, 2024, 2025. And then there's also programming like this small school where we have partnered with folks in the community to host talks, craft clubs, etc. Here you can see in June, I think we've alluded to DeWitt Godfrey, which is one of our first pieces. We'll show you a picture on the next slide. That'll be opening with a VIP reception on June 20th. And then on summer solstice, we will celebrate the longest day of the year by having a wonderful public celebration of this piece of art. Later in the year, we'll have more pictures here. A sunflower power line pole that Thomas Sayer has been working with Duke Energy. That'll go up the first week of October because Duke Energy keeps a schedule. We also, Nick, do you want to talk about the artist residence?
I would love to. So in consultation with Kelly McChesney, we have gotten feedback on a number of approaches at hosting an artist residency at Dix Park for the first time. And one specific approach that Ms. McChesney suggested to us was to effectively model a program based off of the current City of Raleigh Artist in Residency program with our nature preserves, wherein effectively an artist over the course of a year, number one, they would create, maybe up to 6 classes, events, workshops to work with the public, work with folks of all ages, and engaging in the creation of temporary works of public art that reflect the environment, that reflect the landscape, that speak to environmental stewardship. And so, thankfully, because of a private donation to the Conservancy, we are able to move forward in modeling an artist residency program for the first time at Dix Park. Very much looking forward to engaging in the application process, RFP process over the summer. Would love to maybe create an artist selection panel, and maybe involving members of the Parks Board here. But looking forward to launching that in later this year.
So this is Attune, which is the piece by DeWitt Godfrey, and this sits on the hill in front of the old hospital, and it will be lit up. We went out one night and tested out lights at dusk, and you can see the city lights back behind, and then this incredible sculpture with the shadows in front of it. This is a rendering of the sunflower power line poles, which are, it's really creative infrastructure. These are live transmission lines that power downtown, and the lines will come through the middle of these sunflowers, the petals, and this is on Lake Wheeler Road as in this view, as you approach downtown. This is the Physician's House, which will be opening May 31st. It's incredible if you go out there. I know, like I said, y'all will get a tour of Gibson Play Plaza, but this is also just an incredible transformation of the front section of the park.
And if I could just briefly mention, the Physician's House, as you can see, is 2 stories. The ground level will be host to Raleigh Parks Volunteer Services, if I'm not mistaken, for all of Raleigh's parks. And then it'll be on the second level where we'll host the artist residency studio space.
This is the Lamar Whidbey piece. We didn't mention it. This is late 24, early 25. Lamar, as many of you may know, because he is a increasingly known artist here from Eastern Wake County. This piece will be on the outside of one of the old mental health institutional buildings at the park. It's called Get Well Soon. This is actually, he is going to be painting a mural. That's his daughter in that picture. And then there will be sculptural elements on it. And Lamar, as many of you know, is a mental health counselor. who has worked with death row inmates and other populations, and just has a really incredible story and sentiment around working at this park. Do you want to give the 25 preview?
So heading into 2025, obviously a big year for Dix Park. We'll be celebrating 10 years since the acquisition of the landscape from the state of North Carolina by the city. So, ideally, as we head into 2025, we'll have a series of projects to continue to stoke the excitement leading up to the grand opening of the Gibson Play Plaza. We are in conversation right now with Jackie Shelton Green, the North Carolina Poet Laureate, about creating poetry that could exist in sort of a graphically beautiful way on these large decommissioned silos that are currently just sitting on the campus, I think for the past 20 years, empty and rusted. Although I'd like to again acknowledge our public art team with the City of Raleigh have come through with temporary activations of that space with like light installations, movies, etc. But this would be hopefully a temporary install that could last a couple years or maybe longer, depending on the timeline for demolition of the silos. But, we're looking forward to launching that. We're also actively exploring the idea of a Dix Park to Downtown art walk. So we've had, walking tours with colleagues from Artsplosure and our public art consultant and members of the City of Raleigh Arts Commission, effectively walking from the Warehouse District through Boylan Heights and then over across to Dix Park. There's a couple of different ways you can go. It's an idea that certainly resonates with us as we look to the city to continue to work on its efforts to improve that connectivity. We, in the meantime, can at least create a bit of a walking path that's driven by artwork along the way, and potentially in conjunction with our friends at the Dreamville Music Festival, where you got a lot of folks who are descending upon our city to enjoy this, the music and the art of the festival, many of whom are staying downtown, so why not kind of improve that pedestrian and cyclist experience along the way. This leads us into April, where of course, April, May, I think we're looking to celebrate the Gibson Play Plaza opening, along with a very generous, donation and gift from the Raleigh Fine Arts Society, which they'll be celebrating their 60th year of service and art here in the community. And as I understand it, 60 years ago, they commissioned a work or supported the public artwork at Pullen Park. And so for them, it means a lot to join us here at Dix Park right across the way to invest in another major work of public art at the park. There's also been a number of meetings with our colleagues in Raleigh Parks, and specifically in the greenhouse management team, to explore this idea of this tree of 40 fruit project. I am not a horticulturalist, so I won't dive into the details of what exactly this tree of 40 fruits means exactly in terms of the ecology of it all, but I do understand it to be beautiful. And I understand that people like to look at it. And I understand that our friends just after meeting with our friends in the Raleigh greenhouses, they see its potential as another form of art that could exist at the park. And then, of course, later on in the year, Thomas Stanbo, we are very excited to work with. I mean, this is a globally recognized artist who's working with reclaimed materials, recycled materials, I think reclaimed wood, all either natural or...
Show the pictures.
Oh, thank you. Oh, so many pictures.
Sorry.
Thank you. Again, it's a team effort, my friends. It's a team effort. So, again, this particular artist coming in from around the world, he's been pulling volunteers together to, again, using reclaimed wood and other recycled materials to create these giant trolls that people can play with, interact with, and
They're all friendly trolls.
Friendly trolls.
Friendly trolls. He's coming in next week, at the end of May, to check out the site. This is the tree of 40 fruits, which has grafted stone fruit branches. This has not yet been approved, but I think it would be one tree, and that would probably happen. Mark Riegelman will be in the Gibson Play Plaza, and we worked with Kelly and City of Raleigh way back picking that piece. And then Johnny Lee Chapman, who many of you know, has written a poem that will be installed in the Gibson Play Plaza as well. And then back, We also do not have approval for the silos, so I will say we will be asking for, we need to get the state and the city and others to sign off, but I think we will be working with Jackie Shelton Green regardless, but we are hoping we can use those silos, and she is excited about the project and has a number of poems that really speak to the site that we are hoping to highlight. So I think that's the pictures that Kate wanted us to get to. And that wraps up our update.
And if I could just briefly mention, the approval process, I just want to acknowledge our colleagues with the city. Kate Pierce, Kelly McChesney have been so helpful as we've navigated working with the Public Art and Design Board, approvals for like Lamar Whidbey, and the DeWitt Godfrey piece and other works. And so just the relationship here with the city team, deeply, deeply grateful for. And of course, as we seek to work with our colleagues at the Department of Health and Human Services, they too, in their own way. Yeah, thank you.
Before I open it to other questions from the board, and this is somewhat unrelated, so I don't know whether this is whose question this is, but can you give us a little report on Dreamville?
Sure.
Big impact and funding.
We had Dreamville. It was a success. 52,000 people each day. Just in terms of some early metrics, we had 0 arrests inside the festival footprint, which is amazing. And we had around 700 medical calls. However, only 30 of those were transports. So a lot of it was checking in on people and taking them to the recovery tent. I don't want to say, anyway. And so from a early numbers perspective, huge success. There were some production issues that happened the second night, but those will be remedied. But I think overall, it was a great success.
And we will have financial data
Yes.
in another month or so on the impact to.
We'll see when we get the financial data. They tend to work with GRCVB on that, the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau. We did not get the financial report till 2 days before this year's festival from last year's numbers. So I will let you know as soon as we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions about the artwork that for Nick or Janet there?
The Attune piece, is that climbable or you just look at it?
You can actually, I mean, some of them are so large you could walk through, and there's definitely a lot of selfies. We are going to have signs. We also have insurance. But we are going to have signs saying do not climb so that, you're discouraging people. But, I mean, inevitably, I'm sure people will, yeah.
So they're not invited to climb on it?
It is not invited to climb, but like I said, there's a lot of perforations and, you can easily walk through and crawl through many of the lower, and they're very anchored.
Cool.
I'm very excited about the troll.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I mean, I'm so glad that we had the presentation earlier on Green Road and and then to hear this, because I think it is so important that we have art throughout our city, and it is a way for children and adults to relate and connect to something that is different from the straight and narrow path that so often we're sending people down. And so it's great to see both of those opportunities. And thank you all very much for being here. And thank you to Kate Pierce for her presentation.
Thank you for serving on the Parks Board.
All
Thank you.
right. We got one more park to talk about. Carol Lee.
Here to close out your evening of presentations with a bang. Project only slightly smaller in scope and scale than Dix Park, so. All right, so good evening, board. My name is Lauren Cabrick. I am a park planner with Raleigh Parks, and I am here to discuss the Carol Lee Park Improvements Project with you all this evening. It's been a little bit of time since you all have last heard about it, so we wanted to give an update, share the schematic design we have come up with this project, and give you a little sneak preview of what's to come. So this evening, I'm going to go through a bit of an overview of the project, give you some community context, talk about the community engagement that we have completed to date. We'll go through the schematic design and the playground design for this park project, and then talk a little bit about next steps and what's to come. So to start with giving some of that context, the very small pink dot that you see in the center of the screen is Raleigh Park. This is very much a neighborhood park. It's about half an acre in size. You can see it is not too far from Eliza Pool Park, so we're about a mile south of the downtown core with this park. And I will show some pictures here for you to see the park as it currently stands. It is surrounded on 3 sides of the park property by single-family residential units. So it's, again, very much a neighborhood park. You can see that there's several kind of outdated features within this park. The top center picture here, rather old play equipment, metal slide, sand play surface. There are 2 short court basketball courts with fixed hoops on site. One thing in particular that I want to point out in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see here that there's a set of wooden stairs to get onto the park site. The way that it's situated, it's about 4 feet higher than the grade of the adjacent road. So not a very accessible way to enter a park space. So a little over a year ago, we actually were awarded an Accessibility for Parks grant. This was through the North Carolina Division of Parks and Recreation. It was the first time they had ever done this grant program. We were really honored to be one of 21 projects selected from across the whole state of North Carolina, so very exciting. And we were awarded $300,000 with this grant. It had a 5-to-1 match requirement, so we had $360,000 in grant funding to supplement some additional funding that we had for this project. So once we had that funding in place, this year we really kicked off our conceptual design process to think about how we could reimagine this park that, you know, it's been around since 1970, hasn't gotten a ton of investment in recent years. So over the last 3 months, we've done some quite varied engagement. Given the nature of the grant we were awarded and the kind of unique opportunities with this site in particular, we are very much interested in how we could approach this park from a universal design perspective, thinking about the accessibility of this park space from multiple dimensions, particularly thinking about sensory play and sensory play elements because this park is so small. You know, it's about half an acre, so you're kind of limited in the size and scope of equipment that you can put on it, but you can be really creative, and we thought this would be a really cool way to kind of do a pilot project. So in our engagement, we were very intentional about reaching out to a breadth of community members. So in February, we met with a group called the Apex Social Group. It is a monthly meeting of disability advocates from across the Greater Triangle area that may represent different nonprofits, businesses, clubs, and interest groups, where we were able to share about this project and get some really great feedback from them. Then in March, we had an online survey open to the community, got some pretty good responses, close to 100 participants, got a lot of feedback from them. We also did some pop-up engagement in early March at Eliza Pool Park because it's not too far away. We also did a lot of direct outreach to neighbors with this project. We felt that was very important given the context of this park and how it is so intimately nestled into a residential community. So we did a lot of direct outreach, handing out flyers, and talking to folks out and about. And finally, in mid-April, we went to the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities and gave them a presentation, gave them a preview of the designs that we were looking at, solicited feedback, and were able to refine our designs from there. So to give a little preview of some of the information we've heard, I know this is a little bit small on the screen. The rendering that you see in the right-hand corner here was the original concept that we kind of shared around with the community and had in our initial survey. So we had overwhelming support for this layout and kind of this direction with the project. We asked a lot of specific questions about the types of play and the types of sensory elements that folks were interested in. We found that there was an interest in having a variety of types of play, and we fully intend to incorporate all of them, but light and color did come out on top. We also asked folks the types of play that they preferred, whether it would be more of the traditional play, nature play, or a combination thereof. And a combination was strongly preferred. So we're going to be doing some really interesting things that you'll see here in just a minute. But we took this feedback along with all of the kind of technical expertise we gained. This has been a really fun project because we've gotten to touch a lot of different work groups within Raleigh Parks. We've worked very closely with specialized recreation and inclusion services. We've worked with our urban forestry team. We've worked with our parks maintenance staff and have come up with something really cool. So to share some of that with you, I have brought someone with me today who might be a familiar face to some of you. So Dave Toms is the landscape architecture practice lead at McAdams. And something very exciting about this project is McAdams, through McAdams Shares, their philanthropic arm, they are doing pro bono consulting work for us. So all of the design work is done pro bono. We're really appreciative of this partnership. I'm going to let Dave talk to you about the design that we've come up with.
And I will say Dave is a former member of this board and of the Environmental Advisory Board, and I served with him on both of those.
Come on over to Design Review Commission. There's some openings over there. We can do that too. But yeah, it's good to be on this side of the lectern and see a few more familiar faces. But also, quick commentary, I think it's really cool to come right after the Dick's presentation and see our largest right next to our smallest, and the testament to the breadth of our program. What a park system. Anyway, McAdams shares a little bit about how we got here. We focus on homeless and hungered, childhood education, and environmental stewardship. Formerly, our headquarters was in Durham, and we had a lot of relationships there. Ellerby Creek Watershed Association, a few food support organizations. But when we moved to Raleigh about 4 years ago, we wanted to establish some new relationships. Through my time on the Parks Board, got to know the City of Oaks Foundation, reached out to Chris, knowing that their mission aligns almost exactly with ours. And for a few years, our initial support was financially to the Give Play program. But we came back and wanted to find something more directly engaging that we could provide on the ground and give some opportunities for our employees to get some direct neighborhood connections created. So called him back, and he was like, I've got an opportunity for you. Timing's perfect. The city just got the accessibility grant. Can you help them out? And the opportunity to work there in a park that's decades long underinvested was perfect. So we enthusiastically jumped in. Lauren covered all the groups that we've been talking to. So we've arrived here at this master plan. I can tell you every decision that's made here has been to maximize the opportunities, the play potential for the largest spectrum of people we can, regardless of age or ability. Let's see if I can get this markup thing. I've watched people struggle with this for years and never quite tried it. So let's see. Anyway, the general organization of this, you've got the lawn and sensory plantings, a big special tree there, a basketball court, and then this play zone, which is all organized right around this central seating plaza. So you've got good. You guys watching TV? Anyway, great view throughout the park, so you can keep track of what's going on, which is extremely important to caregivers and the population who we're focusing on for this project. So walking through the southern half of the project, that's more loosely programmed. I mentioned the legacy tree. Another key element is this park is going to be fenced, and there's going to be a fence line right through there. Typically, we don't like to fence in parks, but because of the population here, if you've heard of elopement, tendency to run, autism, children, the caregivers are extremely important to them to have some kind of containment that made them comfortable being able to let folks play at will. So that fence is there. We want to create a more inviting entry experience and look for opportunities to have community build days or something like that. So there's an entrance arbor. We're thinking of something clever like that gateway arch, something unique, playful, a little bit of whimsy, so that when you come from the new bus shelter down here, which transportation is going to provide, up this rebuilt sidewalk. Currently, there is stairs on the one sidewalk into the park, so there's zero accessible entrance into the park. So we've redone that. You'll come through that gateway, look to your left, a large play lawn, which is wrapped by sensory plantings. Those, another opportunity for community engagement, but we're anticipating wildflower plantings, pollinator gardens provide the sense and the touch and that opportunity for engagement. To your right is a half-size basketball court here. That is sized down to focus on younger kids and those with different mobilities, and limit the use of the older kids' street ball type of thing, which is more appropriate to larger parks, especially since we've got neighbors just a couple dozen feet away. Then, and I mentioned the Central Plaza, where everyone can sit. That'll have some shaded tables. The goals, oh, that's a key piece. Do adjustable basketball goals, so we can bring those down and adjust to whatever group and their abilities are. Give them opportunities to hit those baskets. So on the north side, much more intensely programmed. This is the playground side of the park, but we're trying to reach that balance between very exciting structural active play structure slides, climbers, and then the nature play side to balance that out. So the public engagement stressed how much people want to climb. They like the bright colors, they like the light and the energy, but recognizing the spectrum of people who are going to be using this park, refuge and quiet was equally important. So we've got on the left side a structure. I'm going to show you an image of that in just a minute. But the left side, the bright colors, poured in place, safety play surface, the spongy stuff. We're working in sensory walls that, as we detail those, introduce things, the knobs and the buttons and the bells, things like that to play with. The main structure, which includes the slides and the climbers, a swing was a key request there, extremely popular. I'll show you what that looks like. It's not the larger, it's the cradle type swing, which is generally more accessible. Then on the right side, it transitions into the nature play, which is a grit gravel, a bound grit gravel surface. It's not like walking in sand or crushed gravel. It's it'll be accessible, but you've got the stepper stones separating the space with some landscape beds here, and then that gets to what we're calling the green swirl, and that's the primary feature of that area, and you got to use your imagination with me for a bit. But up here in this corner, here's the winter version, but this thing will be like a S-shaped, about 4 or 5 foot tall fence that will then plant with vines, so it'll create a green wall, but give you the opportunity to walk into it for a maze-like experience, but you won't get stuck in it. You can walk around the other side of it. It gives you some barrier and separation from all the activity on the playground side. So that'll be super cool. Some nature play features, log steppers, these things over here, the stool-type log rounds that you can stand on. So between the two of them, you've got a great, bright structure, and then the softness of the natural elements to the right of it. So we've been working with bars, and they helped design this with Burke equipment, and have really packed a lot of stuff into this play structure here. The climbers are in here, the tactile pieces. Here's the swing in the back left, so that's more widely it's accessible to a wider population and doesn't require the mobility that you need to operate a traditional swing. Let's see, how do I hide the language? There you go. There you can see more of them, the names of them, the sensory rails, the climbers, the chimes. This 360 loop, that's an interesting feature. It is this here. That is a newer product, but it's a wheelchair accessible slide loop, so the wheelchair user can roll up to that bench at the bottom, pull themselves onto that, and then that green structure is a non-slip ramp. And so if they've upper body able, they can use the monkey bar type movements to go up and then come down, and they get the whole up and down effect. Light and shadow were a popular item in the survey, so the structure picks up on that, and you can see the shade sails at the top, these shadow making, I don't know the official term for those, but they throw cool shadows and have some color. So that is the collection of elements. Here's another look at it. You can start to see more tactile stuff. So this combined with all the natural elements that are happening around the edge of the park and in the nature play area, there's a lot squeezed into the park, and we're super excited about it. And then the last feature and some other collaborations Lauren wants to talk to.
Yeah. One last thing, I'll actually go back for a second to point out too. On the left side here, these chimes and percussive elements allows for that auditory play. So we've incorporated that along with, you see kind of on the left side of the picture here, this rocker feature. So a portion of this play structure is fully accessible. It's got a ramp up, so you don't need to transfer out of a chair or anything of that nature. You can come through, touch the sensory rails, come to this rocker. It acts as a swing. So there's lots of really cool stuff, as Dave said, that are really stuffed into this quite small footprint. So we're really excited about it. And one other thing I'm really excited to share, as part of this project, we have started exploring a really cool partnership with a local nonprofit called A Voice for All Foundation. They specialize in communication boards. So you see an example of the type of products they put together here on the right. It's really awesome because it's a lot more expansive than some of the kind of stock communication board products that you see through playground equipment manufacturers, because this includes numbers and letters, so it provides a much broader scope of how you can use the board. They also are all bilingual by default, so they're in English on one side and Spanish on the other, so it helps with any language, differences of language and communication barriers in that way as well. And they're really unique because you can customize the symbology on them and include pictures of specific play equipment. So they're very much customized to the specific site that they're at, but all the other symbols follow standard best practices. So any children who use AAC devices in therapy and school settings, this is the standard symbology that's used. So it makes it very usable. And we think this could be a really cool case study for rolling out this kind of product in this partnership across multiple playgrounds within our system. So we're really excited to be working with them and exploring this with them. So with all of that fun stuff about this park improvement, I'll talk briefly about next steps. So today we're here with the schematic design for you all to make a motion on. Throughout the summer, we will be in design development, so kind of refining this concept into construction drawings. We'll move through permitting and bidding fall of this year into the winter, and then hope to start construction by late spring or summer, with the anticipation that we will have construction completed by fall 2025, which sounds slightly far away, but in public sector timelines is pretty fast. Something else I want to note that's really cool about this particular project, because this neighborhood is so unique and so diverse, we think that this particular park is a really great opportunity for some community building and social contact. And so we are intending to do a community build day for this park, where construction and installation of the play equipment and some of the plantings will be done by a combination of volunteers from McAdam Shares, the local community members, and Raleigh Police Department is interested in participating with us as well. So a really unique opportunity to bring people together and build community through this project as well. So that's all I have for you today, but we are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, Bob.
It just so happens that this really great park falls right in the middle of my southwest area, as you know. Earlier, the problem has always been accessibility. The stairs were a barricade, and the vision was of the, I was going to say the mother, but the parent pushing the stroller with 2 or 3 short people following them. And there was really no way to get from the street up into the park. So please make sure there's a curb cut to the sidewalk leading into there, because from what I've heard, most of the people come in there will probably be walking in the street to get there. And that will be a huge improvement. So we're very fortunate to have this happening, and whenever you want to talk to the Southwest people, I can make that happen.
I would be happy
Thank
to,
you.
especially if we have a schematic design officially approved after today. Yes, but to your point about a curb cut, so something we didn't explicitly state in discussing this, there is actually a bus stop immediately in front of this park that currently the bus stop is just a sign and people have to stand in the street to wait. Really not ideal, not safe. So as part of this project and part of the funding that we have, you can see here at the bottom of the screen, we are installing this bus pad, and Raleigh Transit is going to be providing the furnishings for that. So that will be a much more accessible landing place with curb cuts for people to then either wait at the bus shelter, meander into the park, enjoy these amenities. So it will be a really substantial improvement to the infrastructure in this area overall.
If possible, please make that bus shelter something that really fits into the neighborhood.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
This is such a cool project. Thank you. I was wondering though, are you anticipating?
Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you anticipating that a lot of people will drive to the park? And what will be the parking issues then?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do anticipate a bit of a mix. So right now, this is very much a neighborhood park. Pretty much everyone who comes to it is within a walkable distance because of the very neighborhood context and the small size of the park. So while we might see some uptick in users driving to the area, especially because of these new exciting accessible features, there is ample street parking along the area. And now that we will have this kind of protected area of the bus shelter, and likely we'll do some striping on either side to keep the sightlines very visible, it should be pretty straightforward and have some pretty good visibility for people to make their way from their street parking spot and into the park.
If you'd like to, I'll be glad to meet you there sometime, and we can just walk the area.
It's really cool if you go out there now to see it, what it looks like now versus, in a year and a half or so to what it becomes. I think it's going to be a really stark transformation and a really exciting one.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Kara?
I just love everything about this. It's very, very exciting. I mean, I'm so happy this is going to go from what it is now to this right over here. It's just awesome. In the beginning, this is just a general comment.
Yeah.
I am very interested in how many people we're reaching through community engagement. So it would be great, with all the work that you've done, if there's just some numbers on the slide, just to see how many of those people are, we're basing our movements off of these comments, and how many of those there actually are.
Yeah.
And then Stephen, we might have talked about this before, but are there other playgrounds that are this old that haven't had any sort of updates?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things we'll talk about is we'll present our capital plan to you, and I can have Shasheen, who is our guru on every project. We have a handful that look like this, and they're in the pipeline for replacement.
Okay, great. Yeah, because it's really stark to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's part of one of the things that I think we're really excited about having this particular grant and having the flexibility to be creative with this project, because it can really be a good case study for future park spaces, especially ones that are smaller like this. You know, we're used to thinking of accessible playgrounds being Laurel Hills, being very large open spaces where you have a lot of freedom to have large pieces of equipment. For something like this that's space constrained, to show how you can still really intentionally do universal design, I think is going to be really huge as a kind of a precedent case for other areas within our system.
Yeah, you can tell you guys have put a lot of care and thought and creativity into this, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying.
It really is amazing, and I mean, I know this park extremely well because my children went to Washington Elementary, and so that's my only, and it's not really a criticism, but there probably needs to be, both for the community build and for other opportunities, not just at this park, but outreach to the school. When my children were there were 2 autism classes there. I don't know whether that's the case now, but I think that it's a walkable distance from Washington Elementary, and in every park. I know there's not a school right near Green Road, but we need to be thinking about, are we reaching out to school communities and school special populations so that they have the opportunity for the great input you all had here. But really, this is, I mean, for such a tiny park and what it is like now, it is an awesome. So thank you to McAdam Shares for the truly above and beyond design. I love that S. Can't wait to see that covered with jasmine or something. You'll get the scent and the tactile and everything else. But I think it's great. So at that, with
Brentwood Elementary is near Green Road.
it is near across.
I used to work there.
Yeah, you're right.
So
It
it's
is-
right there, and there's Brentwood Park. So
Yeah.
as the places get new development and all of these things, the parks, so go the parks.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for reminding me. I should know that. It was in my district. But anyway, thank you for your presentation, and I'll take a motion to approve the schematic design. So moved. A second?
A second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It unanimously passes. Thank you very much.
One thing I forgot to mention was, through your networks, reach out to McAdams Shares if any of your objectives align with ours. We'd love to talk more. I think that was a key point I left off that slide.
Well, that I think we've might be identifying some additional parks that need some work.
You really opened up a
And
can
maybe
of
you
worms.
can just recreate some of this. But thank you all, and thank you, Lauren, for your work on this.
You're
So,
welcome. Yes, and I can definitely second. McAdam Shares has been a great partner, so we should definitely lean on them in the future.
Great. All right. So it is 8 o'clock. Do we need to take a 5-minute break, or are we? Well, we got a fair amount to go. I think we should take. What's the wishes of the board? Yes. Okay.
Second,
All right.
first,
Make it
third,
quick. hear from. And so I want to give you that opportunity to have public comment at this time. So if you'll introduce yourself at the podium.
Okay. It's nice to meet y'all. I don't know you, but my name is Dave Donnelly. I am a Fred Fletcher volunteer. I volunteer at Biltmore Hills Park. I coach baseball for the last 10 years, and I'm here to bring to your attention an issue that we have, and you might know about it, you might not, I don't know, but Congressman Ross's office asked me to, if I want to get something done, to come see y'all. So here's the deal. The deal is I coached 9 and 10-year baseball for the last 10 years at Biltmore Hills. The issue is Parks and Rec wants to take our baseball field number 1 and replace it with tennis courts, okay? Well, the park has 34 acres at the park that they could use to do this, but they chose to take the baseball field because it's right next to the tennis area. Now, granted, Biltmore Hill doesn't have a tennis program. It's a third-party thing. The other issue is this. They have not given us clear direction as to where the 9 and 10-year-olds will play baseball. There's a larger field. It does not accommodate 9 and 10-year-olds. But the biggest point to this whole situation is, back in 2017, the park staff met with the community, and in 2017, the community said, we don't want to do this. We also met with the city councilman, who said, we'll study it, we're not going to do it. So now it's 2024, COVID hit in 2021, everything's been going on underneath the table, and now they're getting ready to take these baseball fields that are in very good shape. Sir, we have very good lighting, and they want to take our baseball fields out and just put these tennis courts in. Point I need to make. Baseball has been at Biltmore Hills since 1964. So if you're 60 years old and better, you kind of know what I'm talking about. They started playing in '64. We're still playing to this date. The benefit and the best part about it is when you get a 9 and 10-year-old that comes out to the park on a bicycle to play baseball, and he's never played before, and his mom is the only person in the household, okay, we get to mentor these kids, we get to work with them. Some of them are really, really talented, and when they have a talent like that, we try to nurture it, we try to bring them along. I don't know how many times I've got a child that come out to play baseball, never played before, extremely really good, and we just try to work with them. We try to give them opportunities to go to NC State baseball camp, some of the other baseball camps. They don't have a man in the house, so the coaches and I, we work as mentors for these kids. We even have one of our players that played with us at 9 and 10 that plays on the Washington Nationals travel team, okay? So we have a very good program. We always finish first or second, except for this year. We had a terrible time because we had too many kids on the team. 2, our playing schedule was such that we couldn't practice, so we weren't very good. But my point is, we got to fix this. This is not right. The community doesn't want it. The city councilman said that we weren't going to do it, and now it looks like, next month or whatever, they're going to start tearing down our baseball field.
All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight and for waiting to have the opportunity to speak. We very much value, especially the coaching that you do, and value hearing from you. Mr. Bentley's going to give us an update on where we are on that park. But thank you for coming to share your thoughts with us this evening. It's very helpful.
Thank you very much.
So the board will get a full report. It'll, just like you did tonight, a schematic design.
Yes, so we are in
review.
schematic design, and we have not, we've seen it at Parks Committee, because why have I seen this? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I,
Yes.
I knew I'd seen the pic, the,
I forgot it. We had a community meeting last week. I had to run out to coach baseball, but we did have a sizable number of people at that meeting.
okay, great. Well, that's important, because as you've heard and listening to all these other presentations, we do get community input, and so that will be factored in to the design that's presented to this board, and so there will be a follow-up, and if you'll make sure that Ms. Harris has your contact information, she can make sure that you're on the distribution list for getting information about that, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's up to the board chair.
I'm sorry, I just, because the gentleman's still here, there's another public meeting next week on Thursday. And the meeting that he missed last week was only the focus group, and we also held the focus, previously held some focus group meetings already, but next Thursday is the big open house public
Well, will
meeting.
you make sure that he has notice of that meeting, because I don't
Yes, I
think
will.
he's here in your.
It's in the afternoon. I can check. It's probably on, Stephen, on your calendar too. Yeah, it's in the evening.
that information.
We will send it to the board.
Okay,
Yeah,
that would be
it's-
great.
It's on the
Thank
city
you.
calendar too.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Okay, so thank you, and we will get back onto our agenda. Approval of the meeting minutes. I believe we decided that at the last meeting that we can approve all of them at once, and so I don't have the list in front of me of how many months, but there were a bunch. Ms. Harris, can you help me by listing those? And I will.
So the regular session meetings was March 21st, 2024, July 20th, 2023, September 21st, 2023, October 19th, 2023, and November 16th, 2023.
All right. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes that Ms. Harris has just listed out?
Move to approve as a slate.
Good.
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments? Well, then I ask for your approval of the minutes as listed in that motion.
Aye.
Great. All right. Next up, we have the director's report.
I'll get through it pretty quick, knowing you have a lot of work left. Do want to start off with a clarification that the vice chair is correct. There is a Greenway corridor close to Green Road. It's the Marsh Creek corridor, which we're doing the long feasibility study to determine whether that's a viable project, and it's funded in the bond. So you win the trivia. Staff was like, no, and I looked, I was like, the Marsh Creek corridor actually goes near Green Road.
Creek Park is way
That's right, but
4
Marsh
miles from
Creek
this.
comes all the way down from Spring Forest Road into Crabtree Creek, and that is the corridor that we're studying.
So I only knew that because they had a slide that showed a dotted line going through the park that was highlighted.
Yeah.
But the reason I was asking it was just to understand whether that was a dependency for the Greenway to be built later.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
just wanted
that's
to make
great.
sure. I was like, all right.
Good. Good,
So
good,
thank
good.
you. A public-private partnership policy was adopted by the council recently, and that will come in June to be presented to the board. We accepted a $1 million grant from the USDA Forest Service for urban forestry. So yes, I'm really, really proud of our urban forestry staff. Our Housing and Neighborhoods Department presented a unsheltered homelessness response program. And the reason I bring that up is that the Parks Department will be a part of that program. So currently, we have 48 encampments in our park system. So the Housing and Neighborhoods Department will work directly with those with some, as a pilot, encampments in the Raleigh Park system to give them direct subsidies to direct housing. So, and we met this morning as a subcommittee. I'm going to bring some information the coming year to you about the unsheltered populations, what our role is as a Parks Department. This so it's elevated to the board. Mine Creek alternative strategy was presented to the council. Essentially, what we presented to the council was that because the path that they chose, I'm going to say the alternative that they chose, bad pun for the path, there is insufficient funds, so we recommended that we will need to reduce the 2022 Parks Bond Referendum scope for Mine Creek to address replacing these bridges. This will come back again to this board, and we will show you the options to replace the bridges, and the board will need to vote on that schematic design again before it goes to council. There was a presentation.
Can I just have one quick question on that? Is there review by DEQ on the creek bed side?
Yes. Yep. Great question. There was a short presentation to council about different options. The council has about $1 million remaining in their reserve. They were interested in funding some different projects. Some of those included park projects, which included possibly, they did not make a decision, making the dog park permanent at Moore Square, investing in some crosswalks that would have murals, and the Office of Raleigh Arts being in our system. We were a part of that presentation, but no vote was taken. Then congratulations that Smoky Hollows schematic design was approved by the Raleigh City Council, so that's another project moving forward. And the pools will be open for Memorial Day, so we will have all of them open. Congratulations to our aquatics staff. We talked last meeting about the Lake Wheeler Invitational, where we had 18 teams from across the United States. Really successful event. Before your next meeting on June 17th, we will begin our summer camp season with over 11,000 campers. So big move, pretty quick. This weekend, we're hosting as a part of Mental Health Awareness Month, a community mental health check-in at Marsh Creek Park from 10 to 1. So, and Moore Square hosted Children's Day in partnership with the Mexican Consulate, which was exciting. Let's see, a few other things. The Parks Division at Walnut Creek Wetland Park is piloting an Out in Nature series where we're working with the LGBTQ plus community and exploring different nature programs as a part of Pride Month. And last but not least, there is a link. There is currently no zoning cases that we are a part of, but if you would like to see that. The only other thing I didn't put in this report, it's a little bit more of a somber note, is that we lost a longtime staff member who was retired, Vic Lebsock, who is the Greenway planner. He's been retired for a number of years. Vic doubled the size of the Greenway system. So very kudos to him. Just some examples. He did the entire Neuse River under his project management, and he was given $10 million, and it was a $24 million project, and he figured a way to do it through grants and partnerships and so forth. He did House Creek, Honeycutt Creek. Not only did he do Greenways, he did Briar Creek Community Center, Barwell Road Community Center, the Forest Ridge Master Plan. My second office was across from Vic, so he would say, come with me. I'm going to show you what to do. So sort of a mentor for me. There was an interest in maybe naming a bridge or a trailhead after him, but he took the Greenway system from 60 miles to 118 miles. So big loss.
I remember when my son did his Eagle Scout project, and it was on the Greenways, and he had to meet
Vic
with...
did everything.
Yeah.
I would... He always had his door open, so I listened to a lot of conversations and a lot of work he did, but... we had our founder of our Greenway system, Vic. He advanced the Greenway system more than anybody in our park's history. So his funeral was on Saturday. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Stephen, Are there any updates on the cafe in Moore Square?
There is. If I don't have the answer, Adam will. But the proposals came in on Friday, and we had 9 proposals. And this Friday, there'll be an update. We can send you a link. We have a memo going to the council, but a good variety of food and options. So really happy. Yeah.
Great. That is a missing link. So that's awesome. All right, let's go into our committee reports. The standing committees, Parks Committee.
Parks Committee met last 2 weeks ago, and we got several great presentations. One was on Forestville Road Park. The situational assessment is 95% done, so that's well on its way. There's the CAG recruitment has started. That's going to probably be done by fall of '24.
We postponed that because one of our staff is on leave for a little bit, so we're going to reinitiate the CAG this fall. So.
Okay. Second big thing, Neuse River Park. We reviewed the proposed design. 65% of the budget is set for that. And we did review Biltmore Park, as we heard earlier, and there was the presentation that was given. And just a couple relevant notes on that. We did get the presentation or the proposal of the baseball field getting taken down and replaced by tennis courts. And a couple of the things that were mentioned, one was that an alternate site was reviewed or considered for the baseball field or for the tennis courts, that the baseball field wouldn't have to be destroyed. The costs were actually really similar. But then if we do tear down the baseball field, as the gentleman mentioned, the larger baseball field is staying there by itself, or the main, I guess, alignment of the baseball field might not be appropriate for 8 and 9-year-olds. But apparently one of the ways that they can accommodate the lost baseball field is to put a second baseball field basically on the back end of that, so they'd play across. Obviously, they couldn't do that at the same time, but that was one of the ways that would kind of solve the fact that we'd be losing that baseball field. So.
Chris, what was the impetus for doing this in the first place?
Yeah, part of it's because, so there are some existing tennis courts, but there's not more tennis courts. So there's a high demand for tennis in that part of the city. And right now there's 8 existing tennis courts. By adding the additional tennis courts, there's going to be 16, which would bring it over the critical mass needed to host certain tennis tournaments, so that the south side of the city can actually get more tennis events that'll actually happen there. Right now, the only facility the city has, I believe, is Millbrook that can actually host it, which is obviously on the far north side. So this would kind of bring a little bit of equity to the tennis situation, which Ken is going to flesh out or correct me.
We have a strong partnership with the Ebony Racket Club, and most people have to go to North Raleigh to play a tournament. We don't have a complex for individuals like the Ebony Racket.
I want to make, Chris, just a slight correction to what you said. So you can make a big field small, but you can't make a small field big. So if you think about this, Walnut Creek softball complex is the best example I can give you. We can host everything from Little League baseball, played on a portable mound, girls fast pitch softball, NCAA level, and men's adult softball, which is a 300-foot fence. And we accomplished that through a couple different methods. One, when we renovated Walnut Creek Athletic Complex, we put in portable mounds to be able to do that. So that's the first thing. How do we make the field playable? Second thing we do is we said modified base length. So I'm going to use a technical term. You put studs in the ground where you set the bases. Third one is temporary fencing that is NCAA approved. So we can take and still create a 200-foot field on the same field right now that has a larger field. You remove that temporary fencing, you still have all the outdoor like we do now on most of our fields, because we don't have lit multi-purpose fields. We play flag football, soccer, anything else on those outside lit spaces. So I just want to make sure from Chris's, we wouldn't create another skinned surface. We would use the existing, modify the dimensions to be able to account for both levels of play.
Yeah, and you'll get the presentation, but the alternative we looked at would have dug into Biltmore Hill in order for there to be massive retaining walls. So that was one of the key things, is that we did not want to do a significant environmental, but you'll get a full presentation on the alternatives.
Ms. Marcia?
Yes, I just want to, since I'm not going to be here for the discussions going forward, somebody talked to me, a person who was on the Stormwater Advisory Board talked to me about the tennis courts at Biltmore Hills. years ago, expressing a great concern about increased stormwater issues because of more paved surfaces at Biltmore Hills. I am not familiar with how that land, the lay of that land, but this person was so concerned that we had a long telephone conversation about it, and I regret I haven't gone over to lay eyes on it myself, but I did have a long conversation recently with Raleigh's former tennis person, Cy King, you know, and he has great concerns about adding tennis courts. He has some ideas that he thinks would work better than putting them at Biltmore, but he understands the politics behind it. He told me about it. But I just want to say that there is a lot of concern about stormwater issues with more paved surfaces.
And stormwater is a partner in the project. They're actually funding green infrastructure on the Biltmore Hills site. Yeah.
Well, obviously, you know, we will have the opportunity to get more information and make some site visits on your own, and we'll get a further presentation. It's gone to Parks Committee, but it will come to this board, and I think the staff working on it will know that they're going to get a lot of questions from us. So.
And I also sent you all the open house regarding this item next week, next Thursday, from 3:30 to 7:30.
And you're going to make sure the gentleman who spoke knows about that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Anything else on Parks Committee?
More to I was actually looking at basketball schedules for my Fred Fletcher interview, and I was just wondering, is there any information that you have about what facilities are utilized for what sports and when? Because I was curious on that, and I think I want to look up something about tennis and baseball, and is that something available?
Can you be a little bit more clear?
So
you want to know
an actual like year-round calendar of all of the sport facilities and how they're used?
I don't know a year-round. You can. I know that when we do things seasonally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't. I'm not. Well, how did I answer the question? So each of our facilities are used year-round, essentially for all the sports. Is the only thing I would say that is during the winter we do have a winter field closure to reduce impact on those. So I'll give you an example of basketball, and this was really news. This is stuff that I still learn every day. We got 32 teams signed up for our adult summer basketball program. And so that'll be played indoors at all of our gymnasiums. So we do a lot of what we call second season sports. We do a spring and a fall baseball and softball. We also got to modify in there with football. So I think the best way to think about this, Stephen, is looking at an amenity list and what fields have, or what parks have which amenities might be the best way to help you with that.
Yeah, the business example I would give is like I could go on Outlook and see what rooms are booked for what purpose on a recurring schedule. I was just wondering if there was something like that for the sports facilities.
Maybe we can work on this offline.
Yeah, we can do that. I can say that what our seasons are posted like months in advance, so you can see out, but we don't do it a whole year in advance because all of those things shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask Ken later. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Fletcher Volunteer Committee. First, as board chair, I want to say kudos to our committee chair on that, April Love, to Mary Owens and her staff. It was special. It was fabulous, and thank you. So if you want to give any further report, we want to first say thank you to you.
Thank you all so much for dressing up, dressing to impress, and doing a really nice job. I think everybody did feel special. And I'm sure we would have had more people had it not, Noah and the Ark came by. It was terrible, but it was still a really nice event. And Mary is amazing to work with, and I'm looking forward to chairing again.
Thank you. I will also mention that I get an email from Creative Morning, and one of the presenters on Saturday is our own April Love. So she wears many hats. And she'll be presenting on Saturday morning regarding that. So thank you for all, and teaching full-time and EOGs, and it's almost the end of the school year, next up is the Greenways Committee.
We met on Monday and talked a little bit about our Crabtree Creek West opening. We've working hard on that. We've been assigned a date of September the 14th. We had an update, a presentation on the Hodges Street Bridge down at Industrial Drive, and had a vigorous discussion about that. We had an update on the Mine Creek bridges that we've already talked about. We made a recommendation of the option 6 circle, the green and white circle for the interrupted connections on the sidewalks. Staff's going back and doing a little work on the size and the spacing of those to present back to us before it comes for a presentation and a vote at this group. And we reviewed 7 community connections and recommended to proceed with 4 of them. And I think that's coming here next month, probably.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing. This gap analysis that the staff has done a fabulous job figuring out where the Greenway kind of ends and that you have to use the sidewalk. It was a bit of a surprise, and so these new decals, thermoplastic, they're going to be fabulous. But one of the phrasings in the new park plan I saw was coordination and collaboration. And I thought the gap analysis, or the fixing the gap, so to speak, of the Greenway is really an opportunity for us to work with the transportation department. Because while some of these gaps, the markings will be on the sidewalk, they're not, that is not where the person necessarily will be. And so it's a huge step forward. But I hope that in your conversations with Raleigh, the transportation people, that we might look at green paint and some other, at least guiding lights to connect that, so that we can really make it it was a work plan item, a really tight connection for people. So anyway. Thank you. Any other things on the Greenways Committee? Then Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees. And Ms. Dixon.
Thank you. We had a meeting, it was the 1st of May, and focused primarily on urban forestry. Zach Manor, the urban forester, came and talked to us. Gave a really great presentation about things that, that his team does overall. But he also mentioned the exciting $1 million grant that the city has just gotten to focus on more planting, really in underserved communities within the city. Really exciting. And he also gave an update on a project that's been going on, kind of a similar one, southeast Raleigh tree planting. The goal has been 1,000 trees over 3 years, and the city has gotten the first 2 years, 700 trees are in. Really impressive work that the staff has done. It was exciting to hear about that. We also talked about the Tree of the Year contest. This was the 3rd year of it, and one of the things that Zach did for us, which was much appreciated, was brought to us sort of the numbers about like how many people participated, who won in those first years and this year, and sort of gave us a better sense of how that contest is working. I guess I should announce that this year our winner is a dogwood tree in Windermere Beaver Dam Park. It's a very beautiful tree. I've seen it. I can speak for it. And one thing we really found, though, in hearing Zach, as Zach presented, the number of votes in this contest each year. The first year there were, I think it was 16. Actually, I have it here. 16 nominations and more than 465 votes for trees. And the winner, though, was a tree on the NC State campus, a ginkgo, beautiful tree. And what really drove the number of votes on that was NC State. I guess it was the communications office that decided this would be fun to do, and they got most of the votes were for that tree. Which is a good thing. So the very next year, it was 13 nominations, 262 votes, so about half the number of votes. But once again, it was the Arboretum that got excited about the contest and drove the votes, and one of their trees won. This year was a little bit different. We had the same number of nominations. There were two different groups. There was the dogwood tree, and then there was somebody who had a tree in their backyard, and clearly this person had a lot of friends who knew this tree. And what happened was there was kind of this back and forth. The dogwood tree would go ahead, the backyard tree would go ahead. It was sort of back and forth, and the dogwood tree prevailed. But so that was kind of fun, but it was 262 votes overall. So it's not, this thing isn't taking the city by fire. So one of the things we were talking about is, well, what can we do to make this contest better? And we didn't make any specific decisions, but we did talk about the real value. It's clear that when there's somebody driving the votes, that's what makes all the difference. We have a regular attendee at the meetings who works for Raleigh's nonprofit that helps support tree planting named We Plant It Forward. And she said, maybe that her group could really help to promote this. And so we were kind of talking about what could we do to get more partners involved in making this thing successful. So we'll probably talk about it again as a committee. If you have any ideas, we would really welcome.
Because you're talking about pictures, because a lot of people can't see them, I think once we talked about it before, we were talking about reaching out to some of the local photographers, because even in that, or even beginning photographers, or the people at Wake Tech, just any of the places that you've got your horticulture people, then you've got your photographers. So if you kind of hit it from both ends, and also never leaving out the schools.
Oh, good.
Letting the schools know they could take it up as a project, take a picture of the tree, talk about driving votes. Got 82 elementary schools alone, or maybe 90 now. So just the idea of maybe tying it into some sort of school project, a sustainability development goal, something like that.
Nice.
I was also going to suggest that just based on the timing of when we have the competition, what if we had a Tree of the Year bracket? So we had like a period where people make nominations, and then you kind of go through March, and that way each time you have a tree that wins, it gets more people behind them. And you could even incorporate, like what April said, have schools and the kids that really get fired up behind their tree.
Great ideas.
I don't know when Arbor Day is, but like Arbor Day is already built into the school calendar of focus. So that would probably be really helpful.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you.
Also, did anybody else think when the Dick's presentation was going on that was a picture of the ginkgo from the first year? That was
I said, well, there's another ginkgo. Oh, so very good.
Could I just,
yeah.
one more thing? Well, actually, two things. It's not an organization, it's a group of.
Closer to the mic,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. There's a group of Raleigh citizens who have a background in conservation and environment, who have gotten very interested in helping the city do more to protect tree canopy. This group is called the Oak Folk Collaborative. Actually, 3 of us at this table are part of it. Marcia and Doug and I have been involved. And we went to the city council and asked for 2 things. One, that the city would develop a plan for setting a goal for tree canopy protection and specifics about how to protect trees on city-owned land and right-of-way, and also encouraging private citizens to protect on their own land. The regulatory side of development land we've seen as a separate issue. But one thing that's come about is that some of the city council members have not wanted to create a new committee to create this plan, and have expressed interest in perhaps using the Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees Committee to do that. And so that's kind of moving forward. Stephen's been a big help in thinking about it. And so it looks likely that's what will be very involved in this. And I wanted you all to know that in case you would like to participate. I think it'll be a big and exciting project. We'll have a lot of people involved, and we'd love to have Parks Board members involved. And that brings me to the last thing I wanted to say, which is that I know that there are even people who, like Kara and Chris, who are members of the committee but struggle with the time. And so I think if Giovanna could help us just look at other possible times to see if there's a time for SWAT that might work better for for folks who are interested in serving, I'd love to have you all involved, so.
Very good. You covered a lot of ground there. Liaison representatives, Chris, anything from the Arts Commission?
I don't have anything from the Arts Commission.
Okay, BPAC, on Friday, May 3rd, the BPAC had their work plan retreat at Flowers Cottage and mostly focused on what their work plan items would be. But they did get a lot of information, and I think it would be worth this board hearing. You've mentioned it several times about the high-speed rail line and how it will cut across Smoky Hollow Park. And the reason that BPAC was talking about it is that you may be aware there are protected bike lanes on Harrington and West, and so they were looking at expanding a north side and south connection to connect where the Greenway goes under Wade Avenue and further points north. And the decision was made that they would not move forward on creating a protected bike lane on West, given the condemnation of property that will be happening there. That apparently, I mean, we've heard about, you have not kept us in the dark on this, but I did not know how fast, and apparently the high-speed line is progressing very quickly. High speed. So. $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the infusion of $1 billion accelerated. But even that's even news to me how fast the high speed is moving.
Exactly. So anyway, that's the BPAC. Historic Cemeteries Advisory, I see Mr. Craig.
Hello, everyone. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Charles Craig. I'm the Assistant Director for Raleigh Parks, one of them, and I'm here to give the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board report. I do want to share very quickly that our historic cemeteries are in good standings, and last weekend we received record numbers of visitation because of Mother's Day. Mother's Day weekend is always very high attendance. So to everyone that identifies as a mother, happy Mother's Day. One of the things I want to touch on, the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board, 2 committees. Those 2 committees are education and outreach. They are now working very closely with planning out the remainder of the year, looking at programming opportunities, tours, more activation as the temperatures increase, more people are out and about. We want to create spaces where they can come and utilize our cemeteries for nice walks and tours. With that being said, our last meeting was on April 22nd, and our next meeting will be next week, which is May 23rd. It will start promptly at 5:30. Oh, excuse me, it will start promptly at 6 p.m. At the boarding building. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Oh, thank you. And it was very interesting to hear Accenture be awarded the Fletcher Award and to hear about the planning that they're doing at Mount Hope Cemetery. That cemetery was really impacted in April of 2011. No, 2020. Yeah. Yeah, 2011 it was. I remember where I was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dick's Leadership Committee, pretty much what you heard, everything that's going on at Dick's there. I don't think I have, but the Stone Cottages do open on June 1st, and that will be, that will provide restrooms, a really important addition there. So, all right, and Work Plan Ad Hoc Committee, Mr. Havner.
The board has wrapped up our work on the work plan. We presented to Stephen and Beverly our proposal, and the 3 of us, well, the 7 of us met with Giovanna this morning and reviewed it. We have compiled it and going to take one last peek at it, distribute it among this group for review prior to a vote in our June meeting.
Slight misspeak. the ad hoc committee has finished the work on it, not the board.
I'm sorry, did I misstate?
Yeah, because the board, so what?
Our committee is.
Yes, the ad hoc committee on the work plan has finished its work. It will be distributed to everyone on the board within a week. And so you'll have 3 weeks prior to the June meeting to review, make any suggestions, comments. It's a meaty document that will guide the work of this board going forward. So take the time to read it all through. But yeah, so that, and then we'll vote on it in June, and it'll be presented to council in July. And Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board.
I do not have a report there.
I believe that everyone has been invited to the a event next Wednesday at the Borden House, and it's primarily sort of a networking for people to know about what the Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board does. I don't have the time written down, but 6 o'clock, I think. 6 o'clock, I think that's it. I will say I went on a BPAC, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board, the 2 boards of the city, sponsored a bike ride. And Doug Johnson was there as well. And we rode 2 different locations, the first being the Pope House. We went to St. Agnes Hospital, the Delaney House, and Seaboard. And several places were not city-owned properties, but it was fabulous to hear the members of this historic museum resources, blah, 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 talk about each of the locations that we went to. And so it was a great way to kick off Bike Month and also learn a little history in our city. So, all right, Parks Board Community Engagement Liaison Reports. I'll start off on that. The Neuse River CAG meeting was last Monday, and we are really moving along. I think this park is going to really balance some of the concerns of the neighbors that it was going to be, overrun them and they were going to have everybody parking, but also be really cool with water features that create more accessibility for the public to get to and in the water and float and tube and all that kind of stuff, and also have fun at the park. So it's really, I think the CAG has really gelled and come along. So that's my CAG. Any other CAG meetings? Chavis?
We met, Chavis, Southern Heritage, and Top Green met Monday a week ago. There was probably 50 people in there. It was well attended. We had presentations from the 3 different designers for each of the 3 projects, got good community feedback. I thought it was a very good conversation.
I really do think there's a good role for CAGs. It's
That's the only ones. I'm looking at the things.
yeah, okay, good. All right, Sir Walter Raleigh Awards. I think Sheng Wen is participating as our representative, and she is not here tonight, so we will not get that update. So chair comments, I'll try and wrap this up quickly. But I have asked 2 members of our board, Kara and Gregory, to serve as an ad hoc nominating committee. And what this will be is, as we look at members rolling off, we'll study the people coming on and look at the diversity of both geography and gender and race and all of that, but also experience, so that we continue to have people who bring a variety of experiences as on our board membership. So we'll be working on that as things are coming, as opening slots are coming. And the other thing I had is last night, it is Bike Month, And last night was the Ride of Silence that Oaks and Spokes put on. And why would I bring that up? I'm not at BPAC. This is a Greenways thing. And there've been so it was a 4.2-mile ride from the Capitol. And that number was chosen because 42 people in North Carolina have died on bicycles by car accidents. And several people there shared stories about very severe accidents that they had been in. And two of them involved greenways crossing roads. And I thought, we think about our greenways and we kind of like to think of them as a green tunnel. And they're not. They are just as the transportation people want to eliminate intersections between rail lines and cars. It's something that we need to think more seriously about because these were some pretty serious accidents with hospitalization. And it's an important reminder that we need not only more directional signage, but we need signage on the road telling drivers that there is a greenway crossing. And so it's something that it's not been on our Greenway Committee agenda, but it was really brought to mind hearing these very somber reports of that. So I thought I would share that with you all. And other than that, anything else anybody else wants to bring up? And then it was a great time on Tuesday. I'll just say that was a lovely, lovely event. And other than that, this meeting is adjourned.